My name is Milton, and these are my travels.
Service to Mexico City.
Oh my god, Jonathan, what are you doing in Mexico? What the heck? How are you? What are you doing in Mexico?
Chill. Take the flash off. He thinks he's in flash.
I'm already recording. I'm already recording. Oh my god, what did this girl bring me?
Welcome to my hood, buddy.
Wow, this is exactly like El Salvador. I like houses like this. They have like, oh my gosh, this is so steep.
Don't record the room. Hey, hola, di hola. Robbie, ¿listo para ligar? O que te liguen. Hey. ¿A qué hora cierran? Dependiendo. Ahora cómo se ve esta noche.
City, and yep, this is proof. It's sinking. About to have my first real Mexican breakfast.
saying?
Yeah. Brothers and amigas y rivales, Museo Bellas Artes.
And now it's time for another segment of History Time. This is the Aztec history in 5 minutes. What do you think of when you think of the Aztecs? You think of sacrifices, blades, beating hearts, wars. What about incredible hunters and farmers, astronomers, builders? I mean, whatever you think of, one thing is for sure. Mexico should definitely come to mind. The exact origins of the Aztec people is a little uncertain, but they are believed to have begun as a northern tribe of hunter-gatherers that appeared in Mesoamerica in the early 13th century. Their arrival came just after, or perhaps helped bring about the fall of the previously dominated Mesoamerican civilization, the Toltecs. Legend has it that when the Aztecs saw an eagle perched on a cactus on a marshy land near the southwest border of the ancient Lake Texcoco, they took it as a sign to build their settlement there. In 1325, they laid their foundations for their capital city, Tenochtitlan. They drained the swampy land and constructed artificial islands in which they could plant gardens. They grew crops including maize, along with beans, squashes, potatoes, tomatoes, and avocados. They also supported themselves through fishing and hunting local animals such as rabbits, armadillos, snakes, coyotes, and turkeys. Moctezuma I, who took power in 1440, was a great warrior who is remembered as the father of the Aztec Empire. By the early 16th century, the Aztecs had come to rule over 500 small states and some 5 to 6 million people, either by conquest or commerce. Tenochtitlan, at its height, had more than 140,000 inhabitants and was the most densely populated city to ever exist in Mesoamerica. The Aztec civilization was also highly developed socially, intellectually, and artistically. The Aztec faith shared many aspects with other Mesoamerican religions, like that of the Maya, notably including the rite of human sacrifice. In the great cities of the Aztec Empire, magnificent temples, palaces, plazas, and statues embodied the civilization's unveiling devotion to the many Aztec gods, including Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and of the sun. The Aztec calendar, common in much of Mesoamerica, was based on a solar cycle of 365 days. The calendar played a central role in the religion and rituals of Aztec society. So then what happened to this magnificent, sophisticated mega empire? Well, in 1519, Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador, and 11 ships with more than 500 men reached the Mexican coast at Yucatan. And although Mexico had been discovered by the Spanish just a year prior, Cortés was eager to settle it. Cortés was also interested in converting the natives into Christianity. His views on the indigenous people was similar to the majority of the Europeans of the day. They were inferior culturally, technologically, and religiously. wrote a scholar. When he arrived at the great Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, Montezuma and his people kindly received him. Why? Because Cortez's arrival coincided with an important Aztec prophecy. The Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, who they credited with the creation of humans, was set to return to Earth. Thinking that Cortez could be Quetzalcoatl, Montezuma greeted the party with great honor. The Aztecs were fascinated by the Spaniards' light skin and the sight of men on horseback, which they described as beasts with 2 heads and 6 legs. Cortez entered the city, sacked it, and took Montezuma hostage. La Malinche, a bilingual native speaking Aztec and Mayan languages who had learned Spanish and had become Cortez's personal interpreter, guide, and mistress, helped Cortez manipulate Montezuma and rule Tenochtitlan through him. Though Cortez had enslaved much of the native population, other indigenous groups were fundamental to his success. The Aztecs were not always loved rulers among their subjected cities, and when Cortez learned of this, he was able to use this to his advantage. The Spaniards also had superior weaponry, like cannons, guns, and swords. They were also aware of the Aztecs' fighting styles and defenses thanks to the other native tribes. All this gave Cortez a huge advantage. While Cortez held Tenochtitlan hostage, the Aztecs were in the midst of a full rebellion. Cortez and his men fled Tenochtitlan, fearing their lives. However, Cortez and his men were there long enough to start a smallpox epidemic in Tenochtitlan. So when Cortez's army regrouped and re-entered Tenochtitlan, they found that the city society had crumbled. The Aztecs no longer trusted Montezuma. They were short on food, and the smallpox epidemic was underway. More than 3 million Aztecs died from smallpox, and with such a severely weakened population, it was easy for the Spanish to take Tenochtitlan. It is uncertain how Montezuma died. Some scholars state that disgusted with him, the Aztecs stoned him to death. Others, including indigenous scholars, assert that the Spanish killed him. Once the city had fallen, Cortez began building Mexico City on its ruins, and it quickly became a preeminent city in the Spanish colonies. And soon after, many Europeans made their voyage to the New Spain. In the next episode, we party it up Saturday night with my roommate's family for her uncle's 80th birthday. I mean, that is the main reason why we came to Mexico City in the first place. Then the following day, we take a trip a few miles up north of Mexico City to the wonderful, magnificent, and mysterious city of Teotihuacan, where I learned that the Aztecs were not the ones who built this city. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, stay tuned for the next episode.